Hey everybody, welcome back to Great Northwest Weaponry. I'm Thomas, and today we are doing part 2 of the Favorite Military Surplus Firearms collaboration. Reminder, if you didn't see the first part of this video, it is a collaboration between myself, the Blind Sniper, 8mm Mauser Man, and Guns, Gear Guns with Geary Gunderson, whose name I will never tire of saying. Just bear that in mind. If you want to check out any of their videos, especially the videos in this collaboration, I will have links to each of their channels in this video description. Today, again, this is part 2, and I am going to be kind of reviewing their picks. There's 8 guns per channel, so with that being 24 guns, I'm going to try and keep each pick under 30 seconds, because otherwise we're going to be here all day. Also, because my memory is just not good enough to keep all that straight with everything else is jumbled around in my head, I have a cheat sheet. And it is tri-folded, so looks like we're starting with 8mm Mauser Man here. If I have a gun in question, I will be bringing it out to show you. So, we're going to kick it off with rifles. His favorite owned rifle, and this is just straight up favorite, was the Mauser Nagant M44. This, if you're familiar with it, is the shorter carbine variation of the Mauser Nagant 9130. It's a derivative of that with a side-folding bayonet. And with it being a stubby little thing chambered in 7.62x54R, it shoots a huge freaking fireball out of the end of it every time you shoot it. I have shot one of these before. I do not own one. I've had a couple of opportunities, but it's always been one of those things. I have this chronic problem of liking weird guns. So whenever a M44 has popped up and I'm like, oh, M44, I've wanted one of those forever. I, turn around and see something like a Femaru model 1937 that is, maybe a little lesser known, and immediately my interest is taken by that. And by the time I have it paid off, the M44 is gone. So if I had one, I'm sure I would love it. His favorite not owned was the Hakim. Funny thing, we did not discuss our picks prior to doing these videos, and the Hakim made a random appearance in the video where I showed you my picks. We'll insert that right here. The Hakim is an unreliable, prone to exploding monster that can just about remove your thumb. So you are rewarded no points, Mr. Hakim, though I do still love you. The Egyptian Hakim, everybody. Egypt's copy of the Jungmann AG-42. Chambered 8mm Mauser, 10 rounds. I actually recently figured out how these feed, and it's really odd, the manner of inserting clips into this. When we do the part 2 video on this, we'll go over that a little more. But these things have a really odd cocking mechanism, so we'll run that again. If it's unsafe, it doesn't slam home. But these are pretty mean and also prone to overpressuring if not dialed in correctly. So, a very cool choice. I am not going to ridicule a favorite choice for something that you don't have that you want to have. If I didn't have the Hakim, I would desperately want the Hakim. I have one, and I'm a little bit afraid of it, because if you put the wrong ammo in this thing again and have the, well, not the wrong ammo, but just hotter ammo than you have your gas system set to, you're probably going to have some really bad problems. I have seen pictures that were just horrific. Side blowouts seems to be very common. And then there's the simple fact that loading this thing is like a, one-way ticket to an amputation if you do it incorrectly. Moving on to most practical in 8mm Mauser Man's rifle collection, Ishapur Enfield 2A1. This is a gun that I want really bad. I've had a couple of opportunities to get one. I think both times I've seen one pop up, it was with my friends at the Warfront. This is the Indian version of the Enfield that is post number 4, Mark 1 and Mark 2 and so on, chambered in 308. A very good choice. Not owned, M1 carbine. I want one of those really bad too. I tend to lean towards when I think of practical rifles, I don't really lean towards intermediate cartridges, as I am thinking a lot of the time about hunting with this thing, because in, like, say, a bug out scenario, I happen to live fairly near to the woods and would probably take off into the woods in such a scenario, and I want something that I can effectively and easily bring down an animal with, hence my picks. If you recall, for practical not owned, I went with the SVT 40 for basically the same reasons. You know, semi-automatic, good for combat scenario. 7.62 54R, good for killing anything, including cars if need be. But M1 carbine, I want one desperately. Again, a good pick. And for a combat scenario, the intermediate cartridge is going to be a lot better for target acquisition. Now, pistols. His favorite owned, and this is also his most practical owned, CZ82. This is a solid pick. He kind of had to pick it by default, it seems, as that is the only true military surplus that he owns. But it's not a bad choice either way. The way he talks it up, it sounds like it is something that I would very much like to get my hands on one of myself. It's a little, you know, later than what you see in my collection here. I think the most recent weapon in the gun room is my VZ52, which is dated like 1956 or something. So it would fall outside of what's covered in my display here, but a good choice. And he's also mentioned using that as his concealed carry weapon, as it is more or less you know, a pretty good size for it, actually, and he does have an inside the belt waist holster for it. So definitely a good pick. As far as favorite not owned, the High Standard HDM. Now, this is a fascinating pick to me. This is an integrally silenced 22 long rifle pistol. They were used in World War II. I think it was like 1942 on. It may have been 41. I don't recall. This is one that I wasn't really familiar with going into this. But they were used by OSS and various other special forces branches starting in World War II and going into the 50s. Really cool piece. Practicality, I guess it depends on what you're wanting to use it for. If you're sneaking around murking people with this thing, it's probably about the best choice you could have. Makes me question what 8mm Mauser Man gets up to in his spare time. As far as practical, not owned, picked the VZ61 Scorpion in 9mm Makarov. This, I believe he referenced it to it being a parts build, so it'd still be a semi-automatic. Parts builds was something, I think he's the only one that actually brought up doing a parts build for this, and we really were pretty loose with the rules with this. So, I mean, 9mm Makarov Scorpion would be freaking sick. Yeah. If you don't know what a Scorpion is, you know, crawl out from under the log you live in and figure it out, because they're really cool. Now, on to guns, gear, and guns with Geary Gunderson. A little bit of a mouth running faster than the brain there. Favorite owned, SVT 40. Yeah. I had that as my pick for practical not owned. I want one desperately. Favorite not owned, and this one, interesting choice. I'm definitely going to let it slide. Again, we weren't really clear on the rules here, but PPSH 41, submachine gun. So I don't really think of it as a rifle so much, but I would do just about anything to own a PPSH. So yeah, I agree. I would love to have one as well. If I was thinking subguns, then I may have made some different picks myself, but again, to me, I was envisioning rifles, so I picked rifles. Practical, M1 Garand. Again, yeah, if you do get, there is a gas adjustment system that you can get, an aftermarket thing that makes it totally safe to operate with more variations of ammunition. if you have that, then yes, very practical rifle. 30-06 is available everywhere. The greatest battle implement ever designed. Not owned. Again, cool choice here. STG 44. You went big. Money. You're going to be coughing up an insane amount of cash for one of those if you're looking at an original and doing a Form 3 on the thing to own it in its select fire configuration. It's basically the original real assault rifle, not assault rifle like what the news talks about all the time, where it's a freaking semi-automatic rifle. It's not an assault rifle. It has to be select fire to be assault rifle. Sturmgewehr. Actual assault rifle. Actual really cool assault rifle. Arguably the first one. Pistols. Favorite owned. I fully endorse this pick. A FN high power manufactured under Nazi occupation. If I had one, it would have made my list somewhere as well. Straight up. I want one really bad. My pick for practical that I don't own was high power, and I was pretty loose about it. I just said high power. The ones that I want are either one just like his, the Belgian made under German occupation example, or a World War II Canadian Inglis high power. Not owned, C96 broom handle. One of the coolest guns of all time. The only reason I didn't pick the C96 broom handle for favorite not owned is because I knew that at least one other person was going to pick that, so I went for something a little weird, the Lati L35. And I stand by my choice, but a C96 broom handle, particularly a Red 9, very near the top of my list of pistols especially that I do not own. As far as practical owned, an Israeli contract Browning high power. Nice. Very cool to have that opposition of, the Nazi high power, the Israeli high power in your list. I am jealous of you having both of those or either of them, and it's a good thing that I don't know where you live. Not owned. CZ85. A solid choice. From my understanding, this is just a upgrade of the CZ75. CZ75, as I actually mentioned in my previous video on this topic where I did my own picks, CZ75 is one of my favorite pistol designs, flat out. And again, it traces back to the high power. A lot of high power with Mr. Geary Gunderson here. Now, the last one, Blind Sniper, and he's, from my understanding, going to be the last one of us to post a video, probably, as he lives in Florida. I do not envy you. I would not want to live there. You couldn't pay me to live there. But if you're not aware, Florida is in the midst of a hurricane right now. So good luck to you, Blind Sniper. I never want to experience a hurricane in my life. That just, I don't have the mental capacity to tolerate that for more than, maybe once. That like, okay, well, I've lived through a hurricane. Time to get out. I don't think people are meant to live here anymore. So his video may be coming out in a day or two. I'm actually kind of late to the game here. Both Geary Gunderson and 8mm Mauser Man already got their videos uploaded earlier this morning, like 8 hours ago or more. Now, as far as Blind Sniper's picks, favorite owned, Mosin Nagant. He was not specific about which model of Mosin Nagant, but the one that he showed in his video was a 9130. Everybody who collects military surplus guns, most people that collect guns in general, have a 9130. For a lot of people, it was their first firearm. For most military surplus collectors, in my experience, it was their first milsurp rifle. I was a weird exception to that rule, as my first was a Berthier Model 1916 Modifié 1916 carbine. Fairly randomly, it just caught my attention. Like I said earlier, I like the weird stuff. But there's a lot of options for Mosin Nagant when you just leave it in broad terms. I mean, I've got the 9130, I've got the M28 Finnish Mosin, and the M39. The M39 almost made my pick for most practical rifle. The M28 is historically awesome. Very probable Winter War veteran there. Very probable Continuation War or Lapland War or both veteran with the 39. And then, of course, the garbage rod. I love them. I get it. Okay, I wouldn't pick it because I like the weird stuff, but I get it. Favorite not owned was another one that I have an example of. The Carcano long rifle. This thing is absurdly long. And interestingly, I also very soon will be having a full-length demo on this rifle put out. I just shot it like 2 days ago, actually. So, or at least the shooting segments of it. Planning on finishing up that video today and having it posted in 4 or 5 days. The long rifle is the original Carcano. And they're just cool. The long rifle variation also seems to be like the hardest one to get your hands on of the multiple variants of them. I believe Geary has one as well that he showed in his video. But I mean, it's, you know, intermediate cartridge-ish, 6.5 Carcano. In this length of rifle, it's a pleasant shooter. It shoots pretty flat. It's not an inaccurate gun. My example is a real antique dated 1896. So this is like, I think, the third oldest rifle in my whole collection at this moment. A cool pick. If I, you know, up until getting this, it was very high on my list of favorites that I did not own. But now I own one, and you will be seeing more of it very soon. For the blind sniper, most practical owned rifle, the SKS. An excellent choice. Intermediate cartridge of 7.62x39, widely available. Even the gun itself, if you have a parts issue, parts are widely available as there's just a mass amount of SKSs floating around the US. I'm ashamed to not own one yet. Not owned, the Spanish FR8, another 308 rifle. This is one of the later military bolt-action rifles that you're going to find. It's a really cool piece. This is another one that I had an opportunity to get, and I actually resent not getting this, like truly resent not getting this one, because you don't see these very often. But they have some really weird features. You know, they had already adopted in Spain a semi-automatic rifle at the point that they brought out the FR8. So the FR8 has some weird implements. The sight picture is very reminiscent of I'm forgetting specifically which rifle which semi-auto they had at the time, but it's similar sight picture. They even use the same bayonet, though instead of having a gas tube under the barrel, it is a storage compartment for the cleaning kit that doubles as a bayonet attachment point. I think I already mentioned it's another 308 design. These were designed in the 50s based on the Gewehr 98 lineage of designs as far as how the bolt operates. Really cool piece, something I definitely want to own. As far as his favorite, P38. I freaking love the P38. I am a Luger man, and I picked the Luger for straight up favorite pistol. But the P38 is a near second for me. I love the P38, and my example is a minty AC-42. Favorite not owned, we've got the C96 broom handle again. And again, I agree. It's one of my favorites that I don't yet own as well, for all the reasons stated previously. Most practical owned, Star BM 9mm. This is a 1970s Spanish pistol, I believe. And not something that I was super familiar with, but definitely a cool pick. For the time period, was a fairly small capacity, but it seems like a gun that handles well. So, you know, I guess it's really depends on what you're looking for. Wouldn't be my first choice. I know he's got some pretty cool milsurps. But again, we're looking at practicality. So I guess, I mean, I chose a revolver. So, and I was right, by the way, that I wound up being the only one. As far as not owned, he had two picks. One was a kind of a cop-out, as he admitted in his own video, give credit where credit is due, a police surplus Glock. Okay, I mean, yeah, that's going to be probably the most practical option if we're going to go that route, but there was a caveat, or a high power, a variation of the high power. That was my pick for not owned practical pistol as well. So we'll go with his high power pick and say, yeah, I full-heartedly agree and endorse that decision. Because I don't want to talk about Glocks anymore. Everybody, it's all Glock, 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 Glock. And I just don't like them. I mean, they're great guns. And honestly, if someone asks me what 9mm should I pick up, if they don't have a preformed opinion, I'm going to tell them start by looking at Glock. It's one of the most reliable. It is one of the most supported for aftermarket, probably the most supported for aftermarket, actually. And it's a 9mm, so, you know, wide ammunition availability. I just never liked the feel of them. The look of them is just eh. And I truly hate their trigger. I don't know what it is about them, but I'm not a fan. I prefer Walthers and HKs. But that wraps it up. A little bit of housekeeping before we send you on your way. I shot a whole bunch of videos in the last couple of weeks because starting today in my part of the state of Oregon, it is deer season. That's actually why I'm getting this video out so late in the day. I have been attempting to find and kill Bambi all day. I found his mother, didn't kill her because I don't have a tag for that. But, so yeah, I'm not going to be able to go into the woods to shoot while it is hunting season, as that is a great way to just royally tick off all hunters in your general vicinity, and it's technically against the law to be shooting in the woods when there are people hunting the woods. So, won't be able to shoot anything else for a while, but I do have a good list of videos made and ready to go for you guys. I'll be starting posting these here pretty soon. I'm going to try and do a video about every 5 days until the middle of November. That's about when I'll be able to get back out to the range. I actually think it's November 4th is the final day of season. So after that, get back out to the range, shoot some more of those videos for you guys, and start posting those. If I run out of videos before I'm able to go out and shoot more, fear not. I'll just, you know, maybe do a blade demo, maybe something that's just a talking video, maybe just a further discussion of something. I don't know. Give me ideas. What would you like to see me discuss that is military surplus related on the channel? I could definitely make a video in that vein for you guys if you are so inclined to watch it. Meanwhile, check out the Blind Sniper 8mm Mauser Man, Guns, Guns, Gear, and Guns with Geary Gunderson. Links will be in the video description. It's been Thomas with Great Northwest Weaponry. I'll see you all next time.